Hello, my name is Starla Henderson, and today we're going to continue with our spring sampler, and we're working on this iris, and it's the iris that I named Beverly. And we're going to do this center portion right here. This is the sample that we started yesterday, started in the last video, and as you can see, I've appliqued down the little green part of the stem as well as the two side petals, and I have already back basted this portion of the center portion that we're going to do today. It's important to realize as you're looking at this that I do this all in one piece. You've got these little pieces coming in here that's going to cover part of this, but it is just much simpler if you've got this all solid so that you don't have to worry about missing your seam allowance in through here. And you know, you're not saving that much fabric, and for the ease of this, it's just much easier. So I basted all of this down, and in the picture you'll see on the pattern that this is there's something else there. I just went on ahead and just did a running stitch. I made them a little bigger, just so I realize on the front that this part's not that this part's covered. But I did not make that on the pattern, at least not on this one here. So here we go. This part right here, the bottom part, is very similar to the little bumps that are in the curves that are in this petal. So for that reason, I'm not going to do this part. This is very long, and for time purposes for this video, I'm going to do the top portion that's got a sharp little valley in it. So you want to make sure that you're trimmed, and I'll do a rough trim when I cut this out, but I'm going to go ahead and come in here and trim this out. It's a scant 1/4 inch. That's what I usually end up doing. And I'm using a thread. I'm going to use a thread that is easier for you to see. And my needle came unthreaded, so I'm going to rethread it. Okay, now that my needle is rethreaded, one thing I do, especially lately, I have learned that I really like to run my thread through one of these wax things that helps keep your thread from knotting up on you. I seem to have more trouble with that the more humid it is around here, and it's been really humid in Oklahoma lately. A lot of rain. So I've taken out first part of my basting stitches. Take them just a little bit more back here on my camera. Okay, and I'm just going to start a little ways before that valley, because the rest of this is just, it's like what we did yesterday or the last video, and it's just pretty straight needle turn applique. Take your tiny stitches, and we're going to work around this outside curve. Till we get ready to start down that valley. You have to keep taking out your stitches, and I take out my basting stitches just a little ways ahead of me most of the time. It helps keep the piece that you're appliquing down where you want it. It's another thing I do like about this technique. And this is kind of a tiny, tight outside curve, so you're going to pretty much be turning and stitching, and then one stitch to one turn almost through the whole thing. If you turn any more than that, it's going to be lumpy on you. Okay, now here's where this peak is, and it's hard to see it. This fabric's kind of dark. But the peak is right here. It's going to curve all this way down into this peak. Now it won't turn anymore. It's starting to pull. So it is time for me to take this. One thing I do to keep from cutting the thread that I am appliquing with is I put my needle in and I lap it over. And now I'm going to cut right down to that inside point. Clip it. And I'm also going to trim out my seam allowance there. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and trim this one. Otherwise, I'll just have to pick up my scissors and do it in a minute here. Okay. Turn your work back. And you're going to continue to curve, to do that curve. But now, you're going to be tucking this all the way into that inside point, or that valley. And this fabric, like some, wants to fray more than others. So just, if your fabric does that, just take it slow and careful. There are products out there you can buy, fray check and stuff, that will help with that. I very rarely use that. I can usually make it work for me. Alright, as you're getting closer, you're taking tiny stitches, and you're going to take a stitch just on the other side of where you clipped. Just a few threads on the other side of where you clipped. Pull it tight. Make sure it's nice and secure. I'm going to take out more of my basting stitches. The next few stitches there. And if they're sticking up and in your way, clip them off. Now, I'm going to take my needle, and right here, I'm going to sweep this under, and while my needle is down there, I'm going to go ahead and sweep all the way through that point. That tucks in all those little threads that we're fraying, and it also tucks under this point. Now, because this is a sharp point, these that we did before are soft inside valleys. This is a sharp one. I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go straight back. I'm going to kind of pull, see if you can see that, pull this back just a little bit towards where the stitch came out, and I'm taking a stitch right down that point, and I'm going to pull it tight. And if you get close enough, even with this thread, I can't hardly see my stitch. And this takes practice. Okay, now I'm going to come back up as close to that point, probably not even a 1/16 of an inch. I mean, it's really close. Onto the next side, and now you just start working your way around this next outside curve, just like we did before with the first curve. Now you're going on the outside, the next one. You're going to work around. I'm going to go ahead and do a couple more stitches here. This turn, I can hold it. Okay. See, I was only able to turn just a couple of stitch worth there. Sometimes it's only one stitch worth. Alright, I'm going to pin my needle, my thread back with my needle. Now, you can see this makes that little inside little point. And that is the most difficult part. There's another one kind of down here. The rest of them are all these soft inside valleys and curves that were on our first petal. So, now you're just going to continue all the way around where you have basted and drawn your line, and when you're done, you will have the center portion done, and these two petals should be covered, as well as should your green from your stem. So, the next step in this will be our two top petals, and we will be doing those 1 and 2 after this. And one comes first. This is a layered piece, And whenever you layer, and if I'm doing a bunch of them at one time, I will even go in and write my numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 so that I know which comes next and I don't have to really think about it. But the next layer is going to be this one right here, and that's what we will do next time. So this is Starla Henderson with Fronterhouse Quilts blog, and we are finishing or working on the iris I named Beverly for our spring sampler. Thank you for joining me.